Yo, what is up everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and for this video we are going to review all the natural diamonds that the game has to offer. And the reason why is because I've seen a lot of posts, Reddit, Discord, and the in-game chat. You know, new players, they open all their relics and they got a diamond variant for the first time and they have no idea whether it's good or not. So in this video I hope to help those of you who are struggling with this, and to give you my own perspective and opinions on these natural diamond fighters based on my own experiences playing the game for like 2 years. But if you want a second opinion, feel free to head down to the description below, where you will find a link to all other videos and content creators that talked about this stuff, so that you can make an informed decision on your investment. And this is important because diamond variants are very expensive, and you want to make sure that you invest in the right ones that will serve you better in the game in the long run. So without further ado, we're just gonna go jump straight in to the first character and her diamond variants, Annie. So I'm gonna be honest with you guys, Annie is not a character that I've had much experience with playing. So this will be based on what I've seen and what other people have said about her variants. First up, we have Mod Leader, and Mod Leader is a premier meta defender in prize fights and rift battles. The ability to gain permanent auto block is pretty stupid. Like, it's insane. It's really annoying. Mod Leader is really good. Is she worth 10 keys of investment? Definitely. You would not regret investing in Mod Leader. But if you're still new to the game and you're still in your early phase where you're trying to like collect as much variants as you can, Mod Leader might not be the best variant to invest in. And the reason is, you will really want to invest more in offense than defense, because investing in offense will allow you to get your prize fight streaks higher and gain more points to get those juicy rewards for you to grow your collection. Mod Leader is for those of you who are playing rift battles and trying to improve your defense. Now that's where investing in Mod Leader would be very good. Next we have Firebranded, and Firebranded is kind of the opposite of Mod Leader. While Mod Leader excels in defense, Firebranded is more of an offensive variant. So is she worth 10 diamond keys? I'm not quite sure honestly, because her signature ability is just massive damage, tons of enrage, bit of stun, and heavy bleed. It doesn't have that much utility, like there's no buff removal, there's no meter control, but she does do a lot of damage. So for you early game players, if you really need someone to deal massive damage, Firebranded might be worth the investment. But I personally, if I get her, since I'm already in late game, I have other variants that can fill that role, so I might not need to invest in Firebranded. Finally, we have Starshine, and Starshine is a very interesting variant. The ability to gain immunity and blessing is very powerful, and also permanent precision is kind of insane, but she does need to stay in the field for 20 to 30 seconds. If you're new to the game, you probably will stay in the field that early on without any repercussions. So I say she brings a very unique utility that not a lot of variants can offer. Permanent Precision, for example, is really good. People have been thinking of using her in rift battles, which has been not as great as they imagined because of the time. Needing to stay in the field for 30 seconds without tagging out is a big time waster, and in rift battles you want to clear the opponent very fast. So for prize fights, however, I think Starshine is very good. 10 diamond keys, is she worth it? I say yes. I think she's absolutely worth it. By a late game, she might fall a bit, but I think she's still a very strong fighter to have in prize fights. Maybe not Rift, unless you need another precision fighter and you don't have much variants for that, then she can fill that role. But there are other variants that can do that utility of precision hits much better. Next, we're just gonna go jump straight into the next character, Beowulf, and the first one is Darkmight. And this is the first variant where I will say please do not invest in one, cause conditioned to activate his signature abilities are having teammates dead and having very low health. That is pretty useless because you want to start doing something early on. In addition, he doesn't actually provide any utility, it's just a damage increase and a chance to defeat enemies, which is kind of powerful, but then again, it requires a level 3 blockbuster, so if you use a level 3 blockbuster, you will most likely kill enemies anyway, so there's really no point of investing in Darkmight at all. I have a shiny one and I have not touched it at all. This is one of the few variants that I think needs a bit of tweak, a rework or some kind to make him usable, and that's all I have to say for Darkmight. Do not invest because it's not worth your keys and resources. Next we have Snakebite. Snakebite is an interesting variant. It gains tons of evasion, it can gain barrier, it gains meter, and permanent haste. It's a really unique combination of buffs, and I think he's one of the easier Beowulfs to play with, especially if you're new to the game. You might make mistakes, and having those evasion stacks can really save you. With a naturally high attack stat, he's definitely worth the 10 keys of investment, but do note that he's gonna be relying on his attack stat for most of his damage. And so if you manage to reach streak 50 or something, he might not be dealing as much damage anymore as the opponents get defensive buffs, but I think he's still pretty solid. Very solid fighter and definitely worth your investment for a strong prize fight team. But in Rift battles, he doesn't really do much, so just know that. And finally, we have Beast King, which is my favorite Diamond Beowulf variant. The ability to inflict Wither and Curse is an insane combo. In this game, buffs are pretty much everything, especially in Rift battles. Being able to inflict Curse and prevent those buffs is premium. And not only that, he gains a massive damage bonus for each debuff the opponent has. Combine this with Lupin Pummel that can inflict stacks of slow, and you've got yourself a damage machine. Like, the Beast King I think is the best Beowulf Diamond variant ever, and it's very hard to think of like another Diamond variant that could top Beast King. He's my absolute favorite unit. I use him all the time in prize fights. He just one-shots things very easily. Is it worth the 10 keys of investment? Definitely. Is it worth in early game? Yeah, it definitely does. And even in late game, you still make use of it as your moves improve. You give him some stats and he just wrecks everything. Beast King, very powerful, very useful, and yes, definitely worth your investment. Next we have Big Ban, and Big Bans are known as the archetypal tank, which means he excels in defense way more than his attack. His attack stat is kind of sad. Now, as I've said before with Mod Leader, you really want to invest more in your offense early game than your defense. However, if we go to Heavy Metal here, his second signature ability actually increases blockbuster damage by 100% while benefiting from armor, which is great. And how do you get armor? You can get it from his first signature ability just by blocking, or you can use a special move, Big Ban's Taunt, that gives him armor. So Heavy Metal is a bit of an exception to this rule. While yes, he shines the best in defense, especially in late game later on, during Rift battles, he's a water element, so he synergizes as well with Frost Armor. And Frost Armor with the reflect damage and Heavy Metal's big HP stat, he's basically a premier defender in late game. However, in early game, you can still use him as an offensive fighter just from his second signature ability alone. Is he the best? No, he's not the best offensive fighter because Big Bans are meant for defense. But if you don't really have any other offensive fighters, it might not be a bad idea to invest in a Heavy Metal to fill that role for now. So is he worth the 10 keys of investment? Yes. Is he worth early game? Yes, if you don't have anything better for offense. And in late game, that's where he shines the most. Dreamban, however, doesn't really have that early game potential. Dreamban is purely a defensive fighter. Yes, you can mirror opponents' buffs every 10 combo hits, and Big Ban can do tons of combos, but that really depends on who you're fighting against. So he doesn't really do much in the offensive department. Where he shines the most is in defense because of that immunity every time he gets knocked down, and the fact that Dreamban has, I think, the highest HP stat in the game, which is huge. Also combined with the light element, he synergizes with Rift Battle Catalyst, Lightweight, and Last Words, which makes him a pretty premier defense as well in late game Rift battles. So is he worth the 10 keys? I think he does. I personally think Dreamban is a very strong defensive fighter. Is he worth early game? Probably not. I think he's kind of like Mod Leader. He shines the best in late game more so than early game. If you pull him, I think it's better to like save those resources, those coins, and those keys for another Diamond fighter that may help you get your prize fight streaks up or the juicy reward. Next we have Cerebella, and like Big Ban, she also only have 2 Diamond variants, and Cerebella is known for her high attack and HP stat. She relies mostly on her stats to deal things, and the first one is heavy-handed, which really leverages that. Heavy-handed doesn't really provide that much utility aside from gaining stacks of enrage for her big one-punch hit. It's hard to justify why she's worth 10 diamond keys. I think there are still better diamond variants that provides more utility. Maybe not the same attack stat, but utility is really important because this game revolves a lot on buffs, and heavy-handed has no way to really get rid of buffs or do anything with buffs. So yes, I think she's a pretty strong fighter, pretty fun to play with, really encourages you to use a different playstyle, but I don't think she's really that worth the coins and the 10 diamond keys that you could have used to invest in some other diamond variants that are way more worth it in the long run. And then we have Star Spangled. Star Spangled is a very interesting variant. She's kinda hard to use. The best way to use her I've seen is through stun locking the opponent by using Seracopter, which is really neat. Now, most of her utility comes from first signature ability to inflict armor break, and she does it very easily. The thing is though, every Sarabella has a chance to inflict armor break from the move Battle Butt, which means that her really little niche is really only the stun locking, and while that's cool and all, I don't think it's worth the 10 keys of investment, and definitely not worth the 5 million coins you need to invest in her. She's a fun variant. If you have the spare coins, feel free to invest in her, but she's not going to improve your team as much as other diamond variants. Next, we have Double, which is mostly known for her Chaos Marquee ability to inflict tons of debuffs, which can really wear down the opponent and make them very vulnerable. Combine that with Double's naturally high attack stat, and Double variants are very known to be offensive powerhouses. And an example here is Jawbreaker. Jawbreaker is absolutely insane. While transmuting, she gains a random buff, and she gets bonus damage 20% for every buff she has. So if you just keep transmuting over and over again, you can really stack up that bonus damage and make Jawbreaker a premier damage machine that can one-shot opponents very easily. She is absolutely worth the 10 keys of investment, even in the early game and late game. In prize fights, she can destroy teams very easily. And the best thing of all is that she's very easy to use. You don't even need to unlock her full skill tree for the Chaos Marquee ability. Just by relying on her both signature abilities for the bonus damage and transmutation, you can really stack up damage really easily. Jawbreaker, absolutely worth the investment for coins and key. Now next is Heart of Darkness, and Heart of Darkness is a bit tricky. I think she's slightly hard to use, and her ability, while unique, being able to copy the opponent's signature ability and inflict Hex, it doesn't really do that much. I've been kind of underwhelmed when using her. So I would say she's not worth the 10 keys of investment. She is still a diamond double variant, so she still has quite a high attack stat. So you can use her for that. But if you're relying on her signature ability, I would not. I think there are better diamond variants out there that complements very well with their own signature ability and can really help you in the long run. Heart of Darkness is a fun variant. I think that's the best label for her. She's very niche and she's fun to use, and that's it. I don't recommend to invest keys or millions of copies for her when you're very new to the game. And then we have Creature of Habit. Creature of Habit is kind of like Heart of Darkness. She doesn't have that much utility. She's mostly a damage dealer. She gains Enrage, and then she gains Miasma. The way she gains Enrage, she just needs a fully charged Blockbuster, and she can really stack up those Enrages very quick. But I think she's slightly hard to use. I haven't seen any video of Creature of Habit that makes me go, wow, I need to invest in one. She has primarily been a bit underwhelming, and I don't think that's gonna change anytime soon. So for me, is she worth the 10 keys of investment? Probably not. Is she worth it in late game or early game? I don't think it matters that much. I think from all the diamond double variants, Jawbreaker is one that you really want to invest in. Now, Eliza is a very technical character to use and play. I don't think she's that newbie friendly. I would definitely recommend checking out some guides for how to play Eliza and making use of her segment. But enough of that, let's go straight onto the first diamond variant, Standout. Now, Standout is a very good variant. Her main shtick is that she can heal and gets rid of the opponent's buffs while also simultaneously building her own meter. She has, I think, one of the highest attack stat for Eliza variants, which is really good. In late game, she absolutely shines the most in Rift battles because, again, as I've said before, buffs is a huge integral part of the game, and being able to manage and control those buffs is absolutely powerful. The best part about Standout is that she doesn't even have to do anything to get rid of buffs. It just has a chance to be removed immediately. Absolutely premier unit in Rift battles, really good. Is she worth the investment for 10 keys? Absolutely yes. I really want to stand out. I don't have her yet, and I'm jealous of you who does. Now, is she worth early game? Honestly, I don't think she's worth to invest early on, because again, Eliza is a complex character to use, so you may have trouble using her, and her signature ability doesn't really provide that much damage output. She's mostly used for her utility as a buff control. So just in summary, worth the investment? Absolutely. Worth in early game? Hard to say, probably not, but definitely in late game, I advise you to investing in Standout. Now, the next one is Mummy Dearest, and unfortunately, I cannot say the same for her. Mummy Dearest is an interesting Eliza variant and has been regarded as one of the worst Diamond variants, and there's some reason why. Well, her second signature ability is quite unique, gaining blessings when she's entering Sekhmet mode, which means that every time she uses a Sekhmet based blockbuster, she gains blessive and is virtually unkillable. But her first signature ability is where she gets a bit wonky. Every time she uses a special move, she sacrifices her own health and gains regen. And the regen is mostly meant to recoup the lost health. Unfortunately, she gains heavy regen which doesn't stack, so you really can only use one special move and wait until heavy regen is finished to recoup all the health back. And this is just to gain blockbuster meter to do some blockbuster damage. The thing is, Eliza doesn't really have that much high of an attack stat, so even if you can use a level 3 blockbuster, it most likely won't really do much damage. I think Mummy Dearest is not worth the 10 keys. There are better Elizas to invest in, there are better Diamond variants to invest in that will help you in the long run for your prize fights and Rift battles. Unfortunately, Mummy Dearest is not that variant. Alright, next character is Philia, which is primarily a bleeder because of her Marquee ability, the first cut, which converts all bleeds into permanent bleeds. So regardless of stats, she can deal some damage against opponents as long as they do not have any access to regen or healing ability. So the first Diamond variant of Philia is Class Cutter. Class Cutter is kind of the perfect bleeder in a way because she inflicts heavy bleed, which is a much more powerful version of bleed, while also inflicting heal block, which prevents healing. Now, while it doesn't prevent the regen, she can still deal damage and kill opponents just by relying on her high attack stat alone. So Class Cutter, I would say, is a pretty good offensive variant. Is she the best? No. Does she provide anything unique or new? Not really. But as a Philia, as a high attacker Philia, I think she's pretty good. Is she worth the 10 keys of investment? I would say so. But I would say that she's more of an early game fighter than a late game. In late game, I don't see a reason to use Class Cutter at all. So just take that in mind. I think she's a good fighter if you don't have anything else better, but she's definitely not the best Diamond fighter out there. And then we have Jin Frizz, and Jin Frizz, I think, personally, is the better Philia variant because of her ability to just gain 3 random buffs. And these buffs can be invincible, it can be enrage, and the best part of all, she can convert those buffs to permanent enrage, which is sick. Jin Frizz, she's an absolute killer. She can deal tons of damage. If you have both Class Cutter and Jin Frizz, I would say invest in Jin Frizz more so than Class Cutter, especially also because Jin Frizz has one of the highest attack stat in the game, and combine that with the Leech Marquee ability, which heals back all her health, you've got a fighter with a tons of attack that can one-shot opponents while also healing herself back, and that is crazy good. Jin Frizz, is it worth the 10 keys of investment? Absolutely. Is it worth early game? Absolutely. Is it worth late game? She kind of doesn't really provide that much utility, but still, I think she's really good. And her just insane attack stat makes up for any utility that she lacks. Next, we have Philia's clone Fuqua. And Fuqua, even though they share the same stats, they have very different kits. I think Fuqua has a much stronger kit than Philia because of special moves such as Loves of Love, which is unblockable, and that Blockbuster Spider, which is a grab-based blockbuster, which is really good. Now we're just gonna go straight to the Diamond variants. First up is Splitting Image. And Splitting Image is kind of like Mod Leader. She is a meta defender. She's very strong in Rift battles for late game, but she doesn't really do much anything in the early game because, as I've said before, you really want offense for early game so that you can climb prize fights easier, faster, and get those rewards to grow your collection. And Splitting Image is primarily a defender. You can use her if you're against like Light Element, Fuko, or Philia. Make use of her second signature ability and kind of stall out the game so that you can use your level 3 Blockbuster. That is an option, but there are better variants if you really want to use her offensively. So Splitting Image, is it worth the 10 keys of investment? Definitely, she's really good in the long run. However, in early game, you might want to hold off your coins and keys for other variants to push your roster to greater heights. That brings us to Shadow Puppet, which is a very crazy, really good offensive powerhouse. Shadow Puppet shares the same stats as Jin Frizz, which means she has insane attack stats on par with those really powerful offensive variants. She is primarily used for her high attack stat to deal tons of damage, and in addition to Fuqua's kit, which has again unblockable special moves and grab based blockbuster, Shadow Puppet is a premier offensive fighter. Now, the second signature ability is really nice at it as it provides you a fail-safe option, especially if you're new to the game. So if you still trying to understand the mechanics of the game, Shadow Puppet can be really handy to really help you get back up on your feet and kill the opponents with 5 stacks of Miasma and the Time Freeze ability. So I say Shadow Puppet, is it worth the 10 keys of investment? Absolutely. Is it worth early game? Definitely. She helps so much with that. And even in late game, her high attack stats still carries her in a lot of offensive teams. Now, she doesn't have that much utility like Jin Frizz, but she does have a really high attack stat, which makes up for it. And then we have Miss Fortune, one of the most difficult characters to play because of her headless mode, which is very hard to use and to learn, but if you manage to pull it off, you can reap a lot of benefits and rewards, and also the ability to like stun loop the opponent again and again. Crazy character. So the first diamond variant that they have is Furry Fury. Ooh, that's a mouthful. So Furry Fury is mostly an offensive variant. You can inflict bleed while also gaining enrage. That's great and all, but again, this is a trait that is very similar to most other fire variants. Being able to inflict bleed and enrage, she doesn't offer any other utility. If you can use headless mode, then she's pretty decent. I say, however, because of her very simple ability and the lack of utility, she's not worth the 10 keys of investment and the millions of copies. Also because there are other variants from other characters that are easier to use and can do so much more. Furry Fury is still like decent though, like she's not bad by any means, she just doesn't have any other oomph to her, you know? Kind of like Fire Branded, I would say. So Furry Fury, not worth the investment, not bad, but I wouldn't invest in her unless you really like cats. And then we have Windstalker, and Windstalker is a really unique variant. Her first signature ability is really good. While nearing Miss Fortune's head, opponents lose 5% blockbuster meter per second, so she is meant to be used in headless. And of course, I don't really recommend trying to learn headless if you're new to the game because there's so much other things that you need to know first. And this ability, while great, is severely hindered by her second signature ability, which only activates when the opponent's health drops below 35%. Personally, I don't see the point of the second signature ability. It's kind of useless. When you already deplete the opponent's health down to 35%, Doom and Deathmark doesn't really do much. You're already getting rid of 65% of their health. You can just finish the 35% in the same way you deleted the opponent's health up to that point. So there's really no point of her second signature ability, and if you just need meter, there are way better variants to do that. The Windstalker is just difficult to use for no apparent reason. She requires you to be in headless mode for her first signature ability, but there's not enough great payoff. So I would say, is she worth the 10 keys of investment? Not really, I don't think so. I think Furry Fury is a better variant to invest in if you really have no other choice. But yeah, I have no other opinion on Windstalker. So if you don't like cats, if you don't really care about Miss Fortune, there's really no point in investing in her diamond variants. Her gold and silver variants are much better, honestly. And then we have Painwheel, which is a glass cannon character. So she's kind of like the opposite of Big Ban. While Big Ban excels in HP, Painwheel excels a lot on attack, but only have like super small health. So her diamond variants are crazy good. Both of them are super good. First one, we have Flytrap. And Fly Trap gains bonus damage for each defeated fighter, which is not hard to do because she is a Painwheel. She has that really high attack stat, crazy offense, and the ability to also heal back when she actually defeats an opponent. Fly Trap is dangerous. Is she worth the investment keys? Yes. Is she worth early game? Yes, because her signature ability is very simple, but it pays off so much, you're only leveraging her attack set for most of the time. Kind of like Jin Frizz and Shadow Puppet, which is more than enough, honestly. Fly Trap, really, really good variant. Definitely a priority if you pull her early on. And next we have Neuromancer, and Neuromancer is kind of different than Fly Trap because she actually has more utility than Fly Trap, but still with Painwheel's base attack stat, her utility is in the form of an easy way to use level 3 Blockbuster from her first signature ability, which is absolutely crazy. You can cheese so much fights with Neuromancer just by tapping the screen recklessly, even though the opponent is blocking. Who cares? You gain so much meter that you can use your level 3 Blockbuster on the go. And in late game, she becomes a very crucial fighter in Rift battles, and she can cheese so much nodes and gain you so much points. Both diamond variants are very, very good, and if you pull any of the two, you should be very, very happy. Definitely worth the keys, and definitely worth the investment whether you're in early game or late game. Both Painwheels are great. Next we have Parasoul, and Parasoul as a character has it all. She has so much utility in the form of on-demand position, immunity taunt, and a chance to remove buffs from Canopy Bounce. She also has a lot of damage going on for her as long as those are crit damage, because of her marketability. So as a character, she is very well rounded and has so much utility to offer. Which brings us to our diamond variant, Somersault. In addition to all her previous utility, Somersault brings a very reliable way to remove buffs. And I've said it before, buffs is a very important element in this game, and being able to control it and remove those buffs from the opponent is premium. It's very, very good. And Somersault's attack stat is not shabby either, it's pretty high. And she got it all. Somersault has been dubbed as one of the best fighters in Rift battles because of her utility alone, and I strongly agree with that. She is very good, but it does require some stat investment. That's one thing, one caveat with Parasoul. She's only really good when you invest in those crits and stats. Is she worth the 10 keys? Absolutely. Somersault is very, very good. Is she worth it early on? It's arguable, but I would say yes. I think being able to remove buffs in such an easy way is very powerful, and it only adds up as you progress through the game. You will never regret investing in Somersault because she is just very, very good. One of my premier top fighters in the game. And then next we have Risky Ginger. Risky Ginger doesn't have as much utility as Somersault, but she just has more damage going on for her in the form of Deathmark and Enrage that makes her blockbusters unblockable. Unfortunately, her condition is quite hard to utilize. It requires her to hit a dashing opponent, which is very difficult to do consistently, and she's also competing against Primed, the gold variant Parasoul that you can get from Prize Fight, which gains Enrage every time she releases a tier. So in that front, while Risky Ginger can deal more damage than Primed, Prime's ability is just so much better and faster that it's really hard to justify why you should invest more coins, and especially diamond coins, on Risky Ginger. So with that said, is she worth 10 diamond keys? No, she's not, and it's better if you just invest in Primed instead. And is she worth late game? Not really, because again, Prime has that covered. Okay, just a few more characters, and next we have Peacock. Known for her projectile spams and ability to generally support her teammates while also having a pretty good attack stat on her own. So first up, for her diamond variant, we have Freeze Frame. And Freeze Frame is very one-dimensional. Her main shtick is that she inflicts projectiles to inflict slow and wither, which is ways to control the opponent's meter. And if you're new to the game and you're struggling with opponents always hitting you with a level 3 blockbuster, which is unblockable and there's nothing you can do about it, you might want to consider investing in Freeze Frame. That will solve that problem. However, I personally think that she's a bit too niche. She does have a pretty good attack stat to cover her up, but her niche is very one-dimensional. She only does one thing and nothing else, and because of that, I personally don't think she's worth 10 keys of investment, although she is still a pretty decent fighter. There are still other fighters that brings more utility and more ways you can use them, as a diamond variant. That is my personal opinion. And yeah, I don't think she's worth 10 diamond keys, but if you want to invest in her for her meter control ability, she really excels at that. And there's not much else to say. Early game, late game doesn't really change much. And then we have Dreamcatcher. Dreamcatcher's ability is very unique, but also quite complicated. I personally am still trying to figure out a way to use her well. I don't think she's a variant that you want to invest early on because, as I said, her ability is quite complicated to use, and she needs a bit more setup than other diamond variants to actually do well. So is she worth 10 diamond keys? Probably not, but if in the off chance in the future that we might see her become like really good because of some specific team composition, that might be possible because her ability is mostly like a support ability. In summary, worth 10 diamond keys? Maybe, maybe not. I'm personally on the no side. And is she worth early or late game? Definitely not early game because she's difficult and needs more setup. But late game, maybe, maybe not. It's a bit of a mystery. It's a bit of an enigma for this variant. So I personally do not recommend investing in the Diamond Peacock variants. And if you do have to invest in one, Freeze Frame is probably better on. And then we have Robo Fortune, which can shoot laser beams from afar, but can also get up to close to you and trap you in these really long combo chains with her head drones and stuff. So her variants, both of them are pretty good. Overclock, for example, is the first neutral diamond variant, so that's one unique thing about her. She gains precision and barrier after every 3 seconds not suffering a hit, which is quite powerful. And all her attacks are unblockable when she gets 3 stacks of precision. I think she is definitely worth 10 diamond keys. Her ability is very unique, and the ability to have unblockable hits can really save you. And her barrier as well can really help you if you're new to the game and trying to like learn the game mechanics. I think she's one of the really better diamond variants, and you can use her both offensively and defensively as well. Then we have Xbot. Now Xbot is kind of the same as Overclock, that she can be used offensively and defensively, but her offensive ability is just far greater than her defensive one. I've talked about Xbot in length in a specific video that I released last time. If you really want to get into the nitty-gritty details, then go watch that video. But long story short, Xbot, one of the best offensive fighters you can have in the game. She is really, really, really good. Absolutely worth the investment of 10 keys, and if you have 2, you can even invest in both and just reap all those benefits. Definitely worth it both in early game, and it gets even stronger in late game when you put stats on Xbot. Next character is Squiggly, and Squiggly is known for her long combo chain. She can trap you in very, very long combos that are very easy to do. And she also has special moves and blockbusters that inflict Wither and Curse, allowing you to control meter and the opponent's buffs without really relying on any special abilities or signature abilities. But for the diamond variants, we have Lovecrafted, and combine all those Squiggly traits with Lovecrafted's signature ability that can inflict Deathmark and Heavy Bleed, which means you are dealing tons of damage with this variant while also preventing the opponents from using blockbusters and inflicting heal block. Lovecrafted is one of the really stronger offensive variant, and her kit along with Squiggly stuff makes her a really complete player. She has so much utility going on for her, and she's just really, really good. Lovecrafted, is it worth investing in 10 keys? Absolutely. And is it worth investing in an early game? Hell yeah. The condition to activate her signature ability is very easy. 10 combo hits are nothing for Squiggly. You will get that very, very fast. And even in late game, she's still pretty good, just as Kevin. And now we have Plot Twisted. And oh boy, Plot Twisted is kind of like Model Leader in the fact that she is a very strong water defensive variant for Rift battles. But her second signature ability makes her usable in offense as well, although not as good as Heavy Metal because it requires her to be inflicted with debuffs to herself. Is she worth the 10 keys? Absolutely yes, she's very strong in defense. Is it worth to invest her in early game? Probably not. But if you're still new to the game, you're still figuring out how things work, her ability to resurrect herself can be really, really good as a failsafe option. So if you mess up, it's fine, you can still use her, and she deals tons of damage from her self-inflicting debuffs. I'll leave the choice to you. If you really want to invest in one, I don't see the problem why not, because she does get better late game. Finally, we have the final character, Valentine. Now, Valentine as a character has so much utility to make up for her very poor base stats. Her utility ranges from reviving teammates, regeneration and healing, inflicting stun, command grabs from mortuary drop, burst damage from counter venoms, and the list goes on. She just has so much going on for her. And her diamond variants having diamond stats really makes these diamond variants very, very good. First one, we have Assassin's Greed, and Assassin's Greed is primarily a defender because she relies on the opponent activating a blockbuster to lose their health and then suffer from heavy bleed. And then when the opponent have bleed, you just gain so much health back just by nearing them. So she doesn't have any offensive output, but as I said, Valentine has so much utility going on for her that investing in Assassin's Greed early on, I don't think has any problems at all. You can use her as a staller, you can use her as a healer, you can use her to revive your teammates from Forbidden Procedure, and if you really need an easy way to heal without relying on the first signature ability, you can equip a burst on Assassin's Greed as well, which will inflict bleed to the opponent. Assassin's Greed may not be great in the offensive department, but I think she's absolutely worth the 10 keys and absolutely worth investing early on. Fun fact, Assassin's Greed is actually my first diamond that I opened and invested in, and I've never regretted investing in one because her diamond stats just carried us forward. And the next one is Trust Chick. Now, while Assassin's Greed is the defensive variant, Trust Chick is the premier offensive variant. Her first signature ability is defensive, gaining barrier, thorns, and armor, but that doesn't really matter as much. She's really mostly used for second signature ability to inflict bleed, death mark, and armor break, which just multiply her damage capabilities over and over again. Granted, Trust Chick does rely on critical hits, so you really want to invest a lot of critical hits on her, and also having a shelter which increases your teammates' critical hits is also a very useful thing to have early on. Is she worth the 10 keys? Absolutely. Is she worth investing early on? If you have the moves to improve her critical hit rate, or you can bring sheltered as well, then yes, she is, I think, worth early on, and in late game she just does so much damage with counter venoms that you will not regret one bit. And finally, we have Wetwork, one of the newest variants that just got released a couple of months ago in a very specific relic, so not a lot of people have her yet. I also don't have her, and I haven't seen a lot of videos on her yet, so all my thoughts on this variant will mostly be theoretical, theory crafting a bit, so do take that into account. But I think she's a really powerful variant. She's definitely offensive, and she's almost like another side of Trust Chick. By knocking the opponent into the air, she gains Enrage, and the opponent suffers armor break and death mark, and that is a ton of damage that she can go for. It does only last for 7 seconds, so you might want to bring tons of counter venoms and tons of mortuary drop to really make use of her damage ability in that small time window. A really cool thing is that she gains evasion while charging a charge attack. Now, I personally do not know how this can be like super useful because Valentine has mortuary drop that she doesn't really require evasion, but that is a nice bonus. Now, I think Trust Chick is still the better variant because she inflicts her debuffs longer and has been known to be able to deal tons of damage from previous experiences. Although I do think that Wetwork does have the potential to deal as much if not more damage from the stacks of Enrage that she can get. Now, the condition to her ability is still a bit of a mystery. I don't know whether she can gain multiple Enrages if she uses, for example, 3 counter venoms at once, for example, or whether she only gains 1 because she only knocks the opponents into the air once. For me, that will make or break Wetwork. So, is she worth the 10 keys of investment? Because she's so new, I'm gonna take a risk and say yes, but do take caution because not a lot of people have experience with her, and what I'm saying could be completely false and she might not work like that at all. But still though, an Enrage, an Armor Break, and Death Mark, if you just use your 3 counter venoms at once, that will still deal tons of damage just from relying on those debuffs. And if you hit a critical hit, that deals even more damage.
So in my opinion, Trust Trick is the more consistent damage dealer, but Wetwork doesn't rely on critical rate investment, so she might be easier to use, and the evasion as well is a nice bonus to have.
Okay, y'all, I just went through all the diamond variants, and of course I can't be super long about it. I had to be very quick, try to like keep it under 1 minute per variant just to go through all of this. And if you want a second opinion, again, please check the description below to see all the links, timestamps, and feel free to share this with your friends or other new players that may have trouble with this, and hopefully this have shed a little bit of light and help you in making your investment decisions. Feel free to reach out if you still have any questions, and if you have trouble picking which variant to invest in. If you need help, feel free to hop into my Discord server and ask there. There are a lot of players who are really good at the game there, and I myself will answer your questions. And that's about it. Hopefully that you find this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks all.